They told you to fake it till you make it. But what if pretending is the very thing holding you back? What if real confidence doesn't start in a crowd, but in the quiet, when you're finally alone with who you are? This isn't about louder voices or stronger handshakes. This is about reclaiming the kind of confidence you don't have to rehearse, because it's already yours. They tell you confidence is loud. It walks into the room first, speaks without hesitating, always knows what to say, and never questions if it belongs. But that version of confidence? It never fit me, and maybe it doesn't fit you either. Maybe you've tried it. Shoulders back, voice steady, talking like you weren't shaking inside, and maybe it worked, sort of, but it left you feeling more like a mask than a person. And here's the truth. No one told us. Real confidence doesn't start with pretending. It starts with presence, with being able to stay with yourself when the discomfort hits, with not abandoning your truth just to sound certain. Because confidence, real confidence, isn't performance. It's alignment. And the day I stopped faking it wasn't the day I felt fearless. It was the day I let myself show up as I actually was, unsure, shaky, but still present. And that's when everything started to change. Somewhere along the way, we confused confidence with certainty, as if we had to know everything, predict every reaction, have the perfect response ready before we could speak. But real confidence doesn't grow from knowing. It grows from safety, from feeling safe enough to say, "I'm not sure yet," without shame. From knowing you won't punish yourself for being human in front of other people. And when I started practicing that, it didn't sound powerful. It sounded slow, quiet, even hesitant at times, but it was real. And the more I allowed myself to exist in spaces without over-explaining or trying to impress, the more my nervous system calmed, because I wasn't performing anymore. I was being, and confidence lives there, not in polished lines or perfect posture, but in the small, repeated moments where you let yourself stay soft without shrinking, unsure without shutting down, honest without apology. And that is how it builds. Not suddenly, but steadily, breath by breath, truth by truth. It's strange how easy it is to confuse overcompensation with confidence. To think if we work harder, speak louder, smile wider, we'll finally feel okay underneath it all. But for me, it wasn't until I stopped trying to outperform my insecurity that I understood what confidence really felt like. Because I used to think being on all the time meant I was strong, impressive, capable. But deep down, I was afraid to rest, afraid to be average, afraid to just be. And the day I stopped chasing that illusion was the day I felt something deeper. Peace. Because confidence isn't about convincing anyone you're enough. It's about no longer needing to. It's about walking into a room and not needing to shrink or swell. Just stand. And standing took practice. Like not volunteering for things I didn't want to do just to feel important. Like not jumping in with an answer just to be needed. Like letting silence be part of my presence instead of a threat to it. And that quiet was where I finally met myself. Not the version I polished for praise, but the one that didn't need to prove anything to deserve stillness. We're told confidence is loud, something flashy, spoken, seen from afar. But the most transformative moments of confidence I've ever known didn't look like breakthroughs or bold speeches. They looked like breathing through a tough conversation without flinching, or sending the email I almost talked myself out of, or showing up, unprepared, imperfect, but present. Because confidence isn't always triumphant. It's often quiet, invisible to others, but unmistakable to you. It's not waiting until you have all the answers to begin. It's beginning anyway, with a soft voice that says, "I'll try," and letting that be enough. And slowly, those little moments build on each other, like bricks laid without applause. And one day, you turn around and realize you've built something solid inside. A place where you don't second-guess every sentence, where you don't rehearse your personality, where you don't rush to fill every silence, because silence is no longer threatening. It's just another space where you're allowed to exist, and confidence, true confidence, lives there, in those spaces where you choose yourself before the world claps for it. You don't need to be the loudest in the room to belong in it, and confidence that's built on pretending, on posturing, pleasing, or proving won't hold when the lights go out. I used to think I had to wear someone else's voice, someone else's ambition, even someone else's pace, just to feel valid. But faking confidence is like using duct tape on a cracked foundation. It might hold for a moment, but you'll always feel the tension underneath. So I started letting myself be bad at things again. Awkward, uncertain, unsure. Because real confidence isn't the absence of those feelings. It's the refusal to let them define your value. And when I stopped performing, something surprising happened. People leaned in closer, not further away, because what they felt was presence, not perfection. And it turns out, the permission you give yourself to be real is what quietly teaches others how to meet you there too. That's the paradox of authentic confidence. The more you drop the mask, the more clearly people see your strength. Confidence doesn't always arrive in a spotlight. It often grows in the quiet, in small repetitions, in moments that no one claps for. I found that the way I talk to myself when no one's listening matters more than any speech I give out loud, because inner confidence is built in private, where the only audience is the version of me I used to abandon. I began practicing simple things, speaking up when I wanted to stay silent, setting boundaries I once let slip, learning to say, "I don't know," without shame. And those quiet wins, barely visible from the outside, became anchors. Confidence isn't a performance, it's a practice, and you don't need to wait until you feel ready. You become ready by showing up again and again, gently, consistently, even imperfectly. It's in those repeated returns, those steadying breaths, those whispered "try again," so that real confidence finds its roots. There came a moment when I realized the version of confidence I had been chasing wasn't mine. It belonged to someone louder, shinier, always certain, always poised, but never truly me. So I stopped chasing applause and started listening to the quiet voice underneath all the noise, the one that said, "You're allowed to be both, growing and worthy at the same time." I let go of the need to impress, to charm, to prove something in every room I entered, and instead began showing up in a way that felt honest, even if it meant being unsure, even if it meant saying less. Confidence, I learned, doesn't need an audience. It just needs permission. And when I gave myself permission to be real instead of impressive, I started to feel something new. Belonging. Not because I played a part well, but because I didn't have to anymore. Confidence, as I now understand it, wasn't something I found in a moment of triumph. It came in layers, slowly, like rebuilding a home I once abandoned. It showed up in the small things, saying no when I meant no, resting when I was tired instead of powering through, admitting when I didn't know, forgiving myself for the days I shrank back and the moments I pretended. I started treating myself like someone I believed in, not someone I had to constantly fix. And that shift changed everything. I didn't need to pretend to be fearless to be strong. I just needed to stop betraying myself for approval. Brick by brick, choice by choice, I laid a foundation made not of perfection, but presence. And every time I honored my truth, I added one more beam to the structure of a confidence that wasn't showy or loud, but unshakable, because it was real. The moment I stopped performing for rooms I didn't belong in was the moment I began belonging to myself. And that, more than any applause or spotlight, was the beginning of real confidence. Because faking it always came with a cost. The quiet anxiety of being found out, the emotional hangover after being on, the disconnection from my own voice while mimicking someone else's. But when I let the mask slip, when I showed up not polished, but present, something incredible happened. The right people stayed, the wrong ones fell away, and the relationships that remained were the kind I didn't have to rehearse for. I learned that belonging isn't something you earn by editing yourself. It's something you create when you're brave enough to be seen as you are, flaws and all. And that kind of belonging feeds confidence from the inside out, not with claps, but with quiet steadiness. In the end, what I learned is that true confidence doesn't shout, it doesn't perform, it doesn't posture. It walks into a room and doesn't need to explain why it's there. It just is. And that presence, that stillness, that self-knowing, it comes from every moment you chose yourself, every time you told the truth when it was easier to hide, every decision to rest instead of prove, to try even when no one clapped, to stay when leaving would have looked more impressive. Confidence without faking it is the slow, sacred result of choosing your own voice over noise, your own pace over pressure, and your own worth over approval. And maybe it's not loud, maybe it won't trend, maybe it won't make everyone like you, but it will make you like you. And that is the kind of confidence that lasts.